Over the last year, I made hundreds of different graphic design projects, starting with some fun art for basketball teams and arm wrestling events, and ending up with the numerous YouTube thumbnails for amazing content creators. But the point of this video is to show you the editing process and how I make the pictures pop. The big thing of this video, just before I start, keep in mind that that's how I edit those pictures. It doesn't mean it's good, it doesn't mean it's better than others, that's just how I do that, so feel free to stay and watch my creative process. First of all, if you want to follow the tutorial or just practice on your own, there's a great website I found that provides you with the raw images. So the website is called Signature Edits. If you type it, you will see it right here. It will point you to that huge library of raw files that you can literally download for free and just practice your editing on them. But here are the 3 images I chose for today's tutorial. Shout out to all the amazing photographers who took them, and let's see what we can do to make them pop. First, I just found our raw files. I want to start with this one, and let's just open it with Photoshop. Quick disclaimer, to make these images pop, I'll be using some of the photo manipulation. I know that it's kind of a controversial topic, but I'm here to teach you how to make them pop, or at least to show you how to do that. You can do half of the job in the Lightroom, but if you want to fully experience all the stuff that we're gonna talk about today, you probably will need to use Photoshop. I love how kind of antique this image looks. It gives me like some of that kind of Asian antique vibe, so that's what we're gonna be working with. First of all, let's start with light, and I think it's pretty well exposed. Maybe we can add like 10 more points. Then we can decrease those highlights a little bit to make the lamps a little bit more visible. As for the color, I'm just gonna add a bit more vibrance, probably like 12, and just increase the temperature to give it kind of that warmer tone a bit. Alright, I think it's a good start. Let's click open as an object. Now do some photo manipulations. I want to make those lamps a little bit of brighter and add kind of warmth coming out of them. I can click on a solid color, go to kind of that like orange tone, and I'm gonna change the mode to the linear dodge add and just flip the mask with Ctrl I. Now I'm just gonna grab a brush, change it to soft round brush, and change the flow to 5%. Do you see how those colors begin to appear, that kind of shining from the lamps? Here's a perfect example of that glow. I'm just gonna drag it a bit, and you see how it all becomes way more brighter right now. Lastly, to bring that image a bit more to life, I can click Vibrance layer and increase the vibrancy all the way to probably around 60, I would say, probably like 50. Now, if you look closer to the floor, you see it kind of becomes a little bit bluish with that vibrancy, so you can grab a soft brush, flip it to black color right here, and just paint it over to bring it more to that kind of pale tone. I think we're pretty much done with the edit at this point, but it just misses one really simple thing that I think gonna make it so much better. As I said at the beginning, I kind of wanted to go after that antique, oldish tone of the picture. I found this really cool overlay. It looks something like this. Let's flip it, stretch it out a bit, probably something like this. And now if you go through the modes and probably set it to the screen mode, I would say, maybe we can stretch it just a bit bigger. It kind of gives this old picture tone, you know, you just found this image somewhere in a closet, somewhere in a big box from your grandparents. You're just getting it out of this box and it's all dusty, covered with dust. So that's exactly what I've been trying to achieve. I think it's just a bit too much, so I'm just gonna add a mask, grab my brush, decrease the flow to probably like 15%, and just kind of remove that middle part a little bit to make it more visible. But otherwise, I think that looks great, and that's exactly what I've been trying to achieve. Now let's open those 2 images next to each other, and I think we made it pop. The picture is more vibrant and more engaging, I would say, but it also looks more antique. Now let's move to the second project, and I bet you will love this one. This is just the perfect image to make it a bit more gloomy, and as soon as I saw this waterfall, I saw this guy wearing this jacket, I immediately saw about winter. Like, it kind of gives me chills, you know? First of all, I think it just yells to add more contrast and clarity to the image. So I'm gonna start with light. I think the exposure is fine, maybe like increase it by 0.10, and then I'm gonna drag that contrast. I can decrease the highlights because do you see how it impacts the sky? Like when the highlights are all the way up, the sky is just white, and when I drag it down, we see more details of the top, so that's exactly what I want to achieve. As far as the effects go, I want to increase the texture by a lot, probably add 50 of texture, add a bit more of clarity to get those details popping. I can just click open as an object. The very first thing I want to do, and I know a lot of people will not like this fact, I need to replace the sky because there's no sky on this image, so replacing it will bring it back to life a little bit. I mean, this picture is great by itself, but as I said, I'm making this picture pop, so I think replacing the sky will exactly be the missing element of it. To do it in Photoshop, you can just click Edit. Right here is gonna be sky replacement. Obviously, this blue sky is not really an effect we're trying to achieve, so let's see what's gonna be a little better. Something like this will work perfect. Yep, I think we found it. And it's kinda all look grayish, a little bit dull, so I think making the water a bit more bluer will really change this image and make it pop like nothing else. To do that, I'm gonna go to single adjustments right here and add this hue saturation adjustment. Now, all we need to do is check out this colorize box and just play with the toggles and see what will look the best. I think the blue like this kind of reminds me of that Alaska winter maybe. And now we're gonna press Ctrl I to invert the mask, grab a soft brush and just paint over the water elements with a white brush. Immediately the image changes drastically. We can paint a little bit over this fog right here. I also painted over the sky to keep it pretty much consistent, and I think it immediately makes the image pop more. I kind of want to focus on our main hero, this guy, and obviously he's a bit darker right now, so I'm gonna add another curves layer, increase it probably something like this, flip the mask, and just paint over this guy. Now, if you toggle this mask off and on, you see a huge difference. It brings our focus more to the main hero because he's brighter now and we can see him a bit better. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I just wanted to give it a bit more that Arctic winter, a bit more cold look, because I'm just looking at it and I have chills. And one missing element is snow. Obviously, we cannot call the photographer and ask if he has any of those pictures with the snow, because I bet he would take some. I found this falling snow overlay. It kind of has a mixture of those bigger ones and smaller ones. I can flip it 90 degrees, stretch it to the size of the image, and just click OK. Now, the same thing as last time, I'm gonna flip the mode to the screen mode. Looks so much better. I mean, I'm a big fan of this edit. I know I did it. I know you should probably not say that stuff about your work, but I just love the way it turns out. The snow, when you think about it, when the snow falls, it kind of has a bit of blur to it, and I think it can look a bit better. So we're gonna go to Filter, Blur, and add Motion Blur to the snow. We can play with the pixels. I don't want to make it like really a lot, so probably keeping it at that 25 radius looks great. Obviously, it looks a little surreal. There's a lot of photo manipulation. We painted the water literally, we exchanged the sky, we put a bit of snow over top. But in general, I think the mission is accomplished and we did a pretty decent job about it. So, time for the project number 3, where we're not gonna really do a lot of photo manipulation, just maybe a tiny bit, but probably the third picture gonna be my favorite one when it comes to aesthetics. I kinda want to just keep it simple and just make a natural edit. We're gonna start with light. Obviously it needs a bit more exposure. And lastly, I'm gonna increase the shadows. As you see, you increase the shadows, and that's what we're talking about, that kind of raw format file. First of all, as I mentioned, let's get this guy a little bit more brighter. So I'm gonna add the curves layer adjustment and keep it something like this. Instead of painting over this one, I can just click right here, select subject, let the Photoshop do its magic. It selected it kind of perfectly. I'm gonna flip to the black mask and click Alt Backspace. Now, as you can see, it added it to the mask. The only thing, we need to flip the mask now, Control I, and our guy is way brighter, and I mean, it looks amazing immediately. Now, I kind of want to highlight his yellow backpack that he has, and I don't know if vibrancy will help a lot, but I can add hue saturation and just literally pump the saturation up to like 25 points. Gonna flip the mask, grab the brush, and just paint over his backpack to bring those colors to life. Lastly, I kinda want to put even more focus on our main character, and I can do it by grabbing yet another curves adjustment layer, bringing it down, flipping it, grabbing the white brush, and just painting over the sides of the image, just a tiny bit to bring the darkness. Maybe just one stroke on every side of the image. I think even that is a bit too much, so I can decrease the opacity now to probably like 50%. At this point we can stop, but I've tried something behind the scenes and I just think it looks incredible. And I just grabbed the Spotlight 85 and just drag it over the top of everything. Increase the size, then moved it to screen, and I just absolutely love what we achieved. It's kind of like, you know, when there's a gap between the trees and you have that light falling on him. I don't know, I just think it's perfect. As always, let's bring two images together, and I mean, you cannot deny that we made it pop again. I tried to keep it simple, but obviously we did few photo manipulations, so I'm not gonna lie about that. There you have it, guys. And the thing is, maybe you're thinking that all three of the edits I did are shit. Or you might be thinking that some of them look better than Peter McKinnon's edit.
Okay, come on.
But regardless of that, the point of this video was to show you how to make images pop, how I make images pop, and I think we did a pretty good job explaining that. If you have any questions regarding the software and settings I use, please feel free to leave a comment. I would highly appreciate if you like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help me tremendously, and I'll see you in the next one.